let me read. We were warned about some things that was the thing that was going to happen to us. We were told about this captivity and what was happening to us in this captivity in Deuteronomy 28 chapter. But let me read something to you out of 1 Corinthians. I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 10, and I'm going to read what Paul had to say about the Euro-Gentiles. This is Romans 10 and verse 6, 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 16. The cup of blessings which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Christ? Well, what they did was Yahweh gave us one day a year to do this. It's called Passover. And when you go into the New Testament, Christ gave the cup of wine and told the 12 apostles, the 12 Israelites, this is my blood which is said of the New Testament for you. And he gave them the bread and break it and said, this is my body which is broken for you. Do it as often as you will. Well, he wasn't telling them he could do it every day. Yahweh had already set up a day for them to do it, and Christ and the apostles were doing it on that day. It was that Passover. Okay? Now let me finish this up. This is verse 17. For we being many are one bread and one body. For we are all partakers of one bread, meaning the Messiah. Behold, Israel after the flesh. Are not they which eat the sacrifices partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything? Or that which is sacrificed, offered in sacrifice to idols anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that you have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and of the cup of the devil. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and partakers of the devil's. Do we provoke Yahweh to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? Well, let's examine that. Let's examine that. Now, Yahweh gave us laws to keep. But today, we don't keep those laws. But what we keep is things that were set up by man. And now we just read in Romans that Paul said that the Gentiles sacrificed to devils. Well, let's look at that. The Gentiles gave us the pagan holiday of Christmas, Easter, Cupid's Day, which they call Valentine's Day. They changed the beginning of the year from April to January after Janus, their two-faced god that looks into the past and into the future. We even celebrate Samhain's Day and call it Halloween, not knowing that of old it was called All Hallows Eve and it was a pagan ritual. Our problem is we don't do the research to find out. We just get caught up into tradition because we like tradition. Well, let me show you something else. In the Bible, all of the days of the weeks and the months had numbers. But what did the Christians do? The Christians named the first day of the week, which is Sunday, which day they call their Sabbath day. But when you read the New Testament, it tells you that Christ rose on the first day of the week, and they say it was Easter Sunday. That's what you call it today. Well, how could it be the first day and the Sabbath day also, unless man made that the Sabbath day? But let's look at that. Like I said, all the days and the months had numbers in the Bible. The Gentiles gave the first day the name of Sunday because Lucifer is the angel of the sun, and that day is in honor of Lucifer, the angel of the sun. This is why they go to church on Sunday. Then they had Moon Day, which is Tuesday. Then they had Wednesday, Thursday, Frig Day, which is Friday, and then Saturnalia, which is Saturday. All of their pagan gods, the Christians, brought over here, and they got them right in front of us today. Then they turn around, all the months had numbers. And they gave the names of numbers, the names of each month, rather, they gave them the names of their gods, of people that they considered to be gods, like the Caesars, okay? God said, Yahweh said that April is Abib, which corresponds between March and April, is the beginning of the year. The Euro-Gentiles changed it to January after Janus, that two-faced God that looks into the past and into the future. February is a pagan god. March is a pagan god, which that's named after Mars. And April, that is a pagan deity. Look them up in your encyclopedia. May is a pagan deity. And we even used to, when I was a kid, remember we had the plait, the maypole, all of that was part of the ceremonies that was in honor of the goddess May. Then we have June. That was named after Julius Caesar. Then we had July. That was named after Caesar. Augustus, which is August, that was named after Caesar. These are people that the people considered to be God. Then you got September, which is the number 8 in Greek. And then you had October, November, and December. All of these are pagan deities that man has right with us here today. And like Paul said, I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. He said that in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 16 through verse 24. But let me read something to you that the prophets said that they was going to do. Now, and they told us how things was going to be changed. I'm going to read some things to you out of the prophet Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 24, and I'm going to pick this up at Isaiah chapter 24 and verse 1. It says, "Behold, Yahweh makes the earth empty, and makes it waste, and turns it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof." Verse 3, "The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for Yahweh has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away, the world languishes and fades away, the hardy people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left." Well, we are witnesses that they changed the beginning of the year from Abib to January, and we are witnesses that they changed it, the first day of the Sabbath, from Saturday, what they call Saturday, to the first day of the week. We're familiar with this. So they did change the laws. They did change the ordinance. And like I said, the Sabbath was the first thing that Yahweh blessed and sanctified, and the Sabbath day was the first thing that Pope St. Leo and Emperor Constantine changed in 312 AD, when Emperor Constantine made Christianity the legal religion of the Holy Roman Empire. But as we see from what Isaiah said in chapter 24, that the earth was going to be full of sin because of the changes that was made from Yahweh's righteous laws to man's liberties that he give you, which he calls democracy. But when we look upon the earth today, we see that sin, they've labeled it crime. Sin is running rampant all over the earth. Why? Because the church does not teach moral values. The church teach you about prosperity. They even took the 10 Commandments out of the judicial system. And the 10 Commandments was the spoken word of Yahweh to our people. But now their constitution, they say their constitution was based upon the 10 Commandments, but in that it couldn't have been, because in that constitution, the so-called black man here in America is considered 3/5 of a human being. But what's being set up now on the earth, we need to be aware of, because our deliverance is at hand. Yahweh told Abraham that we be in this land here for 400 years, and the prophets told us the things that was going to be happening to our people. And when you read the prophets, you can see that these things that Yahweh said was going to happen to his people, they have only befallen us. This is why Lucifer and his children is keeping us on the bottom of the pile. They're even replacing us with Hispanics. Some people at one time, when I was a kid, they didn't even want Hispanics coming in the country. Now they're letting them flood in because they're taking the jobs and putting us in a position to where our young men and young women coming out of schools are not finding any jobs or any future for themselves, and they're getting off into a lot of crime to survive, and the federal government is in the position of getting ready to put in the King Alfred plan. And you need to read that, because the King Alfred plan shows you how they plan on housing our people in these military bases they're closing up. And the one in Indiana, they even have built a crematory that will destroy 3,000 people a day. And the Bible tells you that the nations are going to destroy the mighty and the holy people. Well, here we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we came from. We don't know nothing about ourselves. Tell me we haven't been destroyed. Our people wrote the whole Bible, and we know less about it than anybody else, and have it taught that the Gentiles is getting by set strangers and believe to destroy us. And all the prophets verify that the EU, the organization that's sitting up right now, is the organization that's going to destroy our people. Let me read something to you out of Revelation 13 chapter, and we can see how the EU is being set up on the earth. What it is the revived Holy Roman Empire that fell in 476 AD, and they're putting it back together again. This is Revelation 13, and I'm going to start this at verse 1. And I stood upon the sands of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Now, I know we're looking for a beast that got all these heads and everything, but if you read the prophet Daniel, Daniel told you that these heads and horns would be kings that was going to come up in the earth. Now, this last empire had, let me go ahead and read it. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, the Greek empire, with Alexander the Great. And his feet were the feet of a bear. This was the Medo-Persian Empire that came on the scene in 539 BC. And his mouth was the mouth of a lion. That was Nebuchadnezzar with the Babylonian Empire when we was in captivity in Al-Hillah, Iraq. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Rome fell in 476 AD when it received that deadly wound, and now here they're coming back together, and the deadly wound is being healed. Verse 4. And they worshiped Lucifer, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped this beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Now understand this. Now Christians is putting this EU together. Okay, let's understand that. Verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 3.5 years. Anytime you tell people that Sunday is the Sabbath day, and that Christ was born in the winter, anytime you tell people they don't have to keep God's law, then that's blasphemy, because everything works by law. You can't drive down the street. You can't even rent a place to live in or buy a place without signing things that are part of their law code. Yet and still, the church don't have any law. And they're going to tell me God don't have any law. Well, if he doesn't, why does the sun rise every morning? Why do we have a new moon every 28 days, huh? Okay. Verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nation. Well, it also said he's going to have the power of the earth, but in the process, he's going to destroy the mighty and the holy people. Well, let's look at that. Can you name a king that has ever ruled over us? Can you name any politician today that speak for us collectively? Can you name any neighborhood that we run to have our own schools and so forth like we did before the Civil Rights Movement? No, you can't. Why? Because we are being systematically destroyed as a people. Now, this is verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life, slain from the foundation of the earth. So we can very well see that the New World Order that's being set up on the earth today, the New World Order is being set up for one purpose and one purpose alone, to destroy our people. Now, I read in Revelation 13 where the beast had 7 heads and 10 horns and 10 crowns, and Revelation 13 also told us that the whole world at this time would be worshiping Lucifer. Now, I'm going to go back to Revelation 12, and we're going to see who it is that owned the 7 heads and 10 horns and 10 crowns. This is Revelation 12 and verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This is Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel that's represented in heaven. We are the only nation of people that's represented in heaven. And she being with child, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. So the empires that was brought up on the earth, when you get back into the Bible, you'll find out that all these empires were brought up on the earth for one reason: to chasten the children of Israel, because our people had strayed from God and started worshiping the gods of the nations. So Yahweh brought the Arabs in on us, then he brought the Medo-Persian Empire in on us, and then he brought the Greek Empire, and then the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire is the one that destroyed our people and scattered us to the 4 corners of the earth and are ruling over us, just like the scripture said. And we know that the Romans were Gentiles. They were white folks. A lot of us have been told that a Gentile is a non-Jew, but that's the biggest lie in the world. When you get in Genesis 10, it was only one of Noah's son that was called a Gentile, and his name was Japheth, and he inherited all of Europe and Asia. And when Paul was sent out to teach the nation, that's where Paul went. Paul went to Europe and Asia to teach the people that's living in the Europeans from those countries the truth, so that they could be saved. But in 70 A.D., General Titus came through and destroyed Jerusalem, and according to history, they sold our people to the Ethiopians to work in the salt mines. And the Ethiopians, the Africans in turn, sold us later on to these same people over here for slaves in the Americas. And we came over here singing, "'Tis that old ship of Zion, it has landed many a thousand." Well, Zion is the tribe of Judah. We sang, "Swing low, sweet chariot. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home." Well, the Jordan is in Israel. We sang, "I'm going down to the river Jordan. I'm going to sit at the welcome table. I'm going to feast on milk and honey." We sang, "I'm going to lay down my burden down by the riverside. Ain't going to study war no more." Which river? The river Jordan. Well, we was Africans. Why didn't we sing some songs about the Nile River? And if you notice, the older people, the older generation, sang songs of being delivered out of this captivity back to their own land. But because of the paganisms that we practice today of the nation, all we get is this: we going off to heaven. It's not written one place between Genesis and Revelation, and if you find it, what you do is you come down here and you show it to me, because I've never seen it, and I've been teaching for 31 years. So be careful with the things that you observe, and when these different pagan holidays and so forth come up, what you do is go look them up in the encyclopedia, and what you'll find is that they're deeply seated in paganism, in the worship of devils and demons and so forth and so on. What you think Halloween is all about? Don't we have our children dressed up as skeletons and witches and so forth? And Yahweh said, "You shall not suffer a witch to live. You shall burn her with fire." But we have TV programs that have confessed witches and warlocks on those programs, talking in front of thousands of people. Why? Because the people has gotten to the place to where they don't do what Yahweh said. What we do is we follow the doctrine of men. Now, the things that we've talked about this paganism, you're going to be judged for. So maybe you need to find out about these things, and what you can do is come to the Culture Center of NCCI. We're located at 3901A Covington Highway in Decatur, Georgia. We have Bible class.